What's up? This is a video, just me thinking about a few things. So, in the OCG they have the change to the first turn mechanic. So in OCG, if you're going first, you don't get to draw, which means that basically going second is like then you're going first, essentially. I'm pretty sure most people would favor going second because you get that draw, and having the extra card means more options. So it makes going first worse, even though you're going first, you have the opportunity to do things. So I've been thinking about a few cards, and in my mind, the reason why they are too strong is because they make going first a lot stronger. So speculating whether or not they would be fine if the first hand mechanic change happened in the TCG, which I wouldn't mind if it did. I think the field spell thing is complete nonsense. Like, you should only have one field spell on the field. But yeah, I think that the first hand thing is interesting. Can experiment with it. So I'm thinking of things on like the probably would be fine end and the bit too strong end. But one card that really came up in my mind was the good old trap Dustshoot. It's a card that I really like. It's so cool. I like little weird removal like it, but obviously it's too strong for it to exist in the game as the game currently stands, because you'd go first, you'd be like set it, and they draw, you'd be like Dustshoot, and then you get to look at their hand and take out a monster. So yeah, Dustshoot is too strong as it is now. But then if you were forced to go second every time, if someone said to you like, look, before you go into this tournament, you will always go second, you wouldn't play it because it wouldn't be good. It isn't that good going second, because they get to reduce the number of cards in your hand so that you can't activate it, and furthermore, they will probably use the monster that you would want to take out of their hand, i.e. Yamato, Gigiyama, Bear, etc. So Dustshoot wouldn't have that utility. So the reason why it is so strong, essentially, is because it exacerbates the strength of going first. So with that in mind, if the mechanics changed so that you had one less card going first, and going first is therefore worse than going second, would Dustshoot be that powerful? I mean, they would draw, and then you'd use it, you'd be like Dustshoot, and then you'd take a card out, but then that was 1-for-1 removal. So yeah, you got to get rid of a monster and you got to see the hand. Well, assume you get to get rid of a monster, but yeah, you clear something, or probably you get to see the hand. Then does that do anything too powerful? Because you're still a card behind them, which means that, and they have more options than you, so they still have 5 cards to do something and you have 4. So yeah, you got to see their hand, but unless you had a really strong first turn setup, like you got the thing that you wanted and the Dustshoot, so you had the Yamato, the armor, or Giga or whatever, you got the play to make your first turn particularly strong, along with Dustshoot, then like Dustshoot wouldn't be that good. It would just be a piece of removal. And it might not even hit anything. But would it be that powerful? I'm not too sure. And then again, going second, especially like if your opponent opens with 5 cards going first, then like what's the probability of this being able to hit anything if you go second? Like if they summon a monster and set a back row, set a monster, set a back row, then they're at 3 cards, and you can't use Dustshoot. Although yeah, I mean they draw for turn, but still look at the format as it probably will be, with decks that run a lot of back row and not too many monsters, so you don't get many like monster clogged hands. How often going second would you be able to resolve a Dustshoot? And even so, it would have to sit there for quite a while. It probably wouldn't be able to resolve the next turn, the immediate next turn. So if you opened with it and then you set it, it probably wouldn't be able to resolve then. So it wouldn't be able to advance your already advanced position, having gone second. Most likely, the most likely outcome would be it would sit there for a while. So would people even run it if they assumed that they were going to choose to go second quite a lot? Would they even run it if it came back? Like even at a weird stretch, if it were at 3, like how many people would risk running multiple Dustshoots, assuming that they would go second, because going second would be better than going first in a scenario where you get the draw going second but not going first? How many people would run any, let alone multiples? Because if you're choosing to go second, then you're accepting that the Dustshoot probably isn't going to resolve, and then if you're running multiples, like what's the chance of them having multiple monsters in the hand for you to resolve multiple Dustshoots? It would be difficult enough resolving the one, let alone resolving multiples. And then you would draw one early on, maybe you'd resolve that would be fine, but then you might draw another one later on, and you'd have preferred a regular piece of removal. Like it's interesting to me, because in my time playing this game, like this was around for a while. I remember when it was at 1 in the platform, I think, and then when it got banned, I remember it, and I remember it being way too strong. It's a shame, because I like it, and if it were in the game now, it would be too strong. But I'm skeptical as to whether it would be that great. It wouldn't be that good going first, because it wouldn't advance your position knowing that you are behind having gone first. It wouldn't advance it. It would help, really, for you to crawl back into it. It would be good, but it wouldn't be game changing in any particular way. So that's fine. But then also going second is not that good, for the obvious reasons, which become worse because they have less cards anyway, which means that the probability that you get to resolve this is less. Then even just from a deck building perspective, you probably wouldn't even run it, because if you want to go second, which you would want to go second, then how often are you gonna resolve it? Probably not that often, because that would be like assuming that you're not gonna go second, which you wouldn't do, really, and it wouldn't be, again, it's not particularly strong on either side. And then again, in multiples, if suddenly they were like, yeah, Dustshoot back at 3, like people probably wouldn't run it for the same reasons. It would just further exacerbate problems, and the benefits that you would get from running multiples, which would be more consistently opening with it and having the potential to open in multiples. Like, if that existed now, it would be so good. Like, imagine it. Oh, it would be ridiculously strong, because you would go first and then set like 2 of these, and then they draw. You'd be like, flip one, kill something, get to look at the hand, and then you get to decide whether you want to flip the other one straight away or whether you want to slow roll it. Like, there's so much goodness with this, so much goodness as it is now. But that's because going first is so strong going first is so strong at the moment. If the mechanics were to change, then multiple Dustshoots wouldn't be that great either, because going first, if you had multiples. Granted, that would be okay, but it would just be constantly simplifying the game state until like they would have 4 and you'd have 3, and no matter how you simplified game state with Dustshoot, like they would still have more cards than you. So they're still in the stronger position unless you have like a really good setup alongside that. You have like a Yamato warning something, then you're fine. But that's incredibly situational to have a very good situation plus Dustshoot. The outcome, sorry, the likelihood of that outcome happening isn't very high. But then also going second if you have multiples, again, like you're barely going to resolve the one. How are you going to resolve multiples? And then you draw them later on in the game when the game stays a lot more simplified. It wouldn't be that great. And by they won't have a bunch of cards in hand mid to late game. The game state might not necessarily be simplified, but the hand would have been expended most likely. So personally, I think that if the first turn mechanic could change in the TCG, it wouldn't come until like after Worlds probably. But if it did happen, which I'll be fine with, I guess. Going first is too strong as it is, so I'll be fine with them being like, yeah, you don't draw going first. Like Dustshoot could come back, and it would be fine. And also another thing, I spoke with one of my friends about this, and he said, yeah, but then you get to kill their best monster. But as it stands, as the format stands, there are lots of things to get you into things. It's not necessarily like I draw X, and then like, I get rid of it. It's like you run upstarts, you run dualities, you run recruiters, so like Tenki and things like that. There are lots of cards like that around. So it's very likely that like if you were to just use this instantly, you just and then look at their hand, that you wouldn't hit the Yamato. Like you would see Tenki or duality or something, and then you'd probably end up getting rid of like a crane or a turtle or something for that particular matchup. And then for like something like artifacts as well, you'd be like, and then you just see Theosophy, you know, it wouldn't be that great. So what, you return a blue, that's fine. No one cares about that. The best you'd get is like returning Card Car or Mamelio or something like that. But that's not that strong. Granted, against Gigi's hitting the armor would be pretty bad. But likewise, they could also have Gigi a gear. So it's not like their players are really inhibited with Dustshoot, which means that slow rolling Dustshoot would be better. But that would also mean that if Dustshoot were popular, then people would understand that and would just set 2 or like set 3 or 2 depending on whether they went first or second, and then activate something, activate the Tenki or whatever. They just reduce the cards in their hand. They just place cards on the board before doing things. So yeah, I really don't think Dustshoot would be that strong if the first time mechanics were to change, which I personally like because I like Dustshoot. I think it's just a cool piece of 1-for-1 removal, but I understand that it's way too powerful as it is at the moment. But even so, I would, if the first time mechanics changed and then it was like Dustshoot to 3, everyone would be outraged. It'd be like, what the hell is this? And then you would look back, watch this video, and be like, oh yeah, you know what? It's fine. Yeah, obviously I doubt that they do something like that. Then another thing that I want to talk about is Book of Moon, and Book of Moon is personally something that I would always want at 3. Like Book of Moon is not something that I want to ever see at 1, but I accept why it is at 1, and this is something that a lot of people don't really accept. They don't accept why Book is at 1. Book is at 1 because it makes going first too good again. Just because Book is so versatile. It blocks Synchro or Xyz summoning. It almost acts as a piece of removal sometimes. Because if you set something and then kill it, then it might as well have been removal. In terms of like if you set a monster and then run it over. But also it stops attacks. It can get into stop effect. Like it just disrupts setups, and it's a very strong card. It can also act as like a weird lance as well sometimes. So like if you attack and they mirror force or something, then you just book your own thing. It's rare, but book is strong because of its versatility, and that makes going first stronger. So I accept that book is at 1 because even though it's a -1, it's just its sheer versatility makes it incredibly strong, and probably makes it being at 1 fine. But again, if the mechanics were to change, then going first, I'd open 5 cards, and then I do whatever and I end, and then they draw, and they have the extra card, so they do something, and then they say they summon like Yamato and attack, and I flip book and I set it. Then that advanced my position, having gone first. It reduces their setup. It protects my setup, hypothetically. So that's fine, but now they are 6 cards to my 4. So I took that strong -1, in order to to disrupt their play. And if you have that extra card having gone first, then that's fine. You can afford the -1. But if you already are a card down and then you book, that puts you 2 cards down. So then you need to have a way to get over the thing that you booked, or else the book was useless, really. So I think that going first, the book would be a lot, not to say a lot worse is bad, but it would be a lot weaker just overall in terms of how it relates to going first. The change to going first would mean that book is not a very strong card going first. And then you compare it with something like Warning. Warning is very good because going first, you summon your card and set Warning, and then that means that like they can't really come back at you because you can Warning it. This is why a lot of people are calling for Warning to be banned. But the difference between something like Warning and Book is Warning is just the strong 1-for-1 removal. Like, it is killing things. So in that scenario where I booked the Yamato, if I had Warninged it, then that would have been a lot better. But because I was forced to book it, book is a -1. So I took that -1, and now I'm 2 cards down. While going second, book, again, it's okay going second. Obviously, it's a very versatile card, but the reason why it is at 1 is because it advances your game state so much, having gone first, because they try to come back, and you use it in the many ways in which you can use it, and then because you've gone first, you're essentially a card up, and then you just sort of you flip it, because as it is now, right? You go first, you draw, you have 6 cards in hand to their 5. So then, let's say you like set 4 and end. Then they draw, they summon something in attack, and then you book it. Then they have 5. Sorry, they have 6 to your 5. So then it's basically like you flip things. Now it's like they went first because they have the card over you. So that's fine as it is now if you go first and then do that, because the ability that you'll have to advance your game state having done that outweighs the -1. But I don't think that it would if the first turn mechanic change were to be implemented into the TCG. So I think that these are just a couple of examples of things that change the outlook on cards that are overpowered because they advance your game state having gone first. I think that something like Warning will still be too strong going first and going second. It'll just be too strong. But things like these two, which at the moment, like Dustshoot, is banned because of how good it is going first, even though it is just 1-for-1 removal. Like as I discussed, I think that completely changes with the first turn mechanic change. And then something like Book, which is at 1, when I look at Book, I mean, I can't read this. This is a Korean one, But I look at it because I know what it does, and I'm like, this shouldn't be at 1. What is this? But then you think about it more and you realize why it is at 1, because it is too good going first, because of its versatility. But then with the mechanic change, the extent that book is good also changes, and then it can be allowed to just be that cool, versatile pseudo trap, without being too powerful based on not card design, because these 2 cards are in theory designed completely fine, but because of the nature of the game and going first, so by changing the nature of the game, they allowed cards like these to be fine. But feel free to comment or inbox or whatever, and state your own argument. Maybe state other cards as well that you think would be fine now that are on the ban list, because I haven't looked through the ban list and thought of everything, painstakingly looked through every card to try and find the ones that would be an injustice having been on the ban list. Like I just thought of Dustshoot, and then I happened to find a book lying around as well, so that was why I talked about those 2. But yeah, if you have any other things that you think would be fine, feel free to comment, and then I'll think about it and discuss it. Or if you disagree, you're like, no, Dustshoot would be way too powerful with the mechanic change, you're wrong, you are an incorrect person, then post why, and likewise the book, then post why. But as it stands, I think that I'm correct, because you know, I stated quite logical reasons, and I think it's just an interesting discussion, because these changes could come to the TCG, and in that case, it would change quite a few things, and I would look forward to it, because going first is too powerful at the moment. But yeah, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, post it on your face. Just post HarryCG96 or whatever on your face. Do whatever you want. Tattoo my face onto your chest and things like that. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you around.